Welcome to this episode of Winning with Patents. I am Jackie Hutter, founder of the Hutter Group and a globally recognized IP strategy expert. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest worries I hear from startup founders. How do you protect the investment of time, money, and sweat equity that you spent to develop your startup's innovative technology and products by filing for patent protection, without at the same time giving away your secret sauce in return? You may be surprised to find out that this is possible, and you may not be giving up anything you really care about to do so. Let me show you how easy this is and why it matters to startup founders. As everyone watching this probably knows, when you file a patent application, you have to disclose to others how to make and use the invention that you want to own, which, of course, requires you to tell others, including competitors, what you are doing. In other words, you have to disclose your company's trade secrets as the exchange for obtaining patent protection. Many founders may worry rightly that filing a patent application automatically forces them to reveal their secret sauce to competitors. This fear often keeps them from considering patents, especially in the early stages when they're still validating their business model. But here's the truth. In the United States, you don't have to choose between protection and secrecy, at least for the time your application is pending. What is not generally known by startup founders, likely because their patent attorneys don't tell them, is that you can file your U.S. utility patent application with a non-publication request. This means your application stays confidential at the patent office and never appears in the public patent databases unless and until it's actually issued. Since most patent applications won't issue for at least 3 years after filing, this secrecy period can be a huge advantage for startups. For most startups, if you haven't commercialized the tech or products in your patent application in 3 years, you probably won't ever do so. However, if you get an allowance before you are ready to disclose the tech or products in the application, you can elect to not allow the patent to issue. Even better, you can refile the application to restart the examination process and not lose your priority date. In other words, you can maintain the secrecy of what's in your patent application for 5 or more years if you are strategic. Importantly, you can still get the benefit of securing an early priority date, that is, planting your flag at the patent office before anyone else, without tipping your hand about the details of your innovation. This approach can let you continue building your business in stealth mode while still preserving your ability to obtain patent rights. How do you keep your startup's patent application from publishing 18 months after the priority date, which is measured from either a provisional filing date or the utility application filing date? It's super easy, almost too easy. So easy that when I see a published patent application from a startup company from which I can view their trade secret information, I wonder why their patent team failed to tell them they didn't have to do this. So how do you get the benefit of patent protection and secrecy? Your patent attorney checks a single box on the U.S. utility patent application filing forms. That's it. Really. Here's the catch. Most patent attorneys don't check the non-publication box on the U.S. utility application filing paperwork, even though it's simple to do so. Why not? Well, I'm not them, so I can't really give you a good reason. I guess it may be because the default in the patent world is the more patents, the better. I mean, if your job is to get patents for people, shouldn't you be leaning in that direction all the time? Also, to keep your patent application unpublished, you have to give up the right to file for patents outside of the US, even though the vast majority of startups likely don't need patent protection anywhere but in the US. For people whose focus is on protecting their client's invention, relinquishing the right to file in all other countries except the US may seem like it must be a big deal. But from the vantage point of a startup founder who doesn't need patents outside of the US, at least for their early tech or products, the loss of this right is a non-issue. Looking at the issue from their point of view, it makes sense that your patent team is likely going to ignore that box every time they fill out the application paperwork because it never gets checked. Another reason is probably because we patent attorneys are trained using the patent strategies of large established companies. As I've talked about in a previous video, startups aren't established companies, and it follows that the patent strategies they use should also be different. So, what about the fact that you have to give up the ability to file outside of the US in order to have your patent application not issue? The reality is that your startup simply isn't going to file in other countries, at least at this time. Why? If your business model is primarily US focused, foreign filings may not add any real value, even while they will cost your company a whole lot of money to pursue. While there are certainly exceptions to startups needing to obtain patent protection outside of the US, these exceptions should not make the rule. So instead of accepting the default position taken by your patent team, startup founders should ask themselves, does going against the grain by keeping my application confidential give me more leverage right now than a distant shot at foreign patents that won't benefit my company's valuation? I'm sure most people will agree that for many startups, the smarter move is maintaining secrecy while still protecting rights here in the US. Let's dig deeper into the risks of letting your patent application publish too early. The moment your application shows up in the public database, your competitors get visibility to the tech and products that you want to protect. They can have this review of every detail of your filing at a time when your company may still be fragile, still raising money, still validating your technology, and still searching for product market fit. Think about it. By allowing your US patent application to publish, you've essentially given away a free roadmap that they can study, adapt, or even race to market with. But the risks don't stop there. Once your application is public, competitors can also track your patent examination in real time. They can see the back and forth with the examiner, how you narrow your claims, and where you may be vulnerable. This also means they can strategically file blocking applications or design around your claims before you even secure your first patent. And here's another hidden trap. Once published, your application becomes prior art against you. If you later want to file improvements or a continuation in part to reflect what you've learned from customer discovery, that published application may limit what you can claim. In other words, your own filing can actually come back to haunt you. For startups, this can be especially dangerous. Large companies may survive that kind of exposure because they have teams of lawyers and deep IP budgets. But for an early stage founder, secrecy can be a real competitive weapon. By keeping your application confidential through a non-publication request, you stay in control of the timing. You can protect your rights at the USPTO without giving your rivals a free look at your secret sauce before you are ready. In short, early publication of your pending patent application may benefit your competitors far more than it benefits you. And for startups, that trade-off can be the difference between leading the market and being left behind. Now let's look at why the non-publication option, that is, checking the box on the US utility application paperwork, can be such a smart move for startups. First, it keeps your valuable tech and emerging products hidden until your patent is actually granted. That means you're not forced to disclose sensitive details before you're ready. Instead of handing your competitors an early playbook, you control when your ideas become public. This secrecy can buy you precious time to raise funding, secure customers, or even launch a product without competitors circling in the background. Second, non-publication gives you the flexibility to pivot into new areas without exposing unproven ideas. Startups evolve. But your first patent application filing might be based on what you think the market wants. But after customer discovery or real-world testing, you may realize you need to shift focus on your tech, your products, or sometimes even both. If your application is already published, all of those early guesses are now public record, even if you never pursue them. With non-publication, those pivots happen in private, and you only reveal what's relevant once you know it truly adds value. And third, non-publication maximizes your business optionality. You stay in control of when and how your technology is disclosed. Maybe you want to keep things quiet until a funding round closes, or maybe you're negotiating with a potential acquirer and don't want them to see your full patent strategy just yet. With non-publication, you hold the cards, not the patent office. In other words, this isn't just a legal tactic, it's a business strategy. Non-publication allows you to align your IP decisions with your company's growth, your fundraising goals, and your go-to-market timing. For many startups, this enhanced level of control can be a real game changer. Another smart advantage of filing with non-publication is that it pairs beautifully with a strategic continuation in part, what we call a CIP filing. Here's how it works. When you file your first patent application, you can lock in an early priority date for your tech and product innovations. That's effectively staking your claim to being the first inventor to file by planting a flag in the ground at the USPTO. But as any startup founder knows, your tech and products will not stay the same, even while the content in your patent application remains just as you filed it. As your startup matures, customer discovery, technical development, and even pivots can reveal new features or improvements that weren't in your original filing. You can strategically add that new material later in a follow-on CIP application while still holding on to the priority date for those aspects of your tech and products that you included in the first application. In practice, this means you can build a layered patent portfolio that grows as your company evolves. Your earliest ideas can stay protected, and your newer insights get folded into a new filing without starting over from scratch. This is especially powerful for startups because innovation is rarely a straight line. Maybe you start with a filing on your initial tech or product, but then your customers show you that a certain feature is the real game changer. Instead of leaving that unprotected or filing a completely new application that risks running into your own prior art, a CIP can allow you to capture those insights within the same family of patents. The result? Flexibility. You're not locked into a single snapshot of your invention from day one. You can keep expanding, adapting, and strengthening your protection to reflect your actual business journey. I had a client who filed a utility patent application with a request for non-publication on a concept that he believed represented the future of his industry. He anticipated that his industry would evolve in the coming years and wanted to lay down a marker at the USPTO. He was right, and 3 years later filed a follow-on CIP application, which included new material that aligned with how the industry was moving. Since his own application was not prior art against him as a publication, he was able to obtain broad protection that predated his competitors by years. Also, we accelerated the application, which meant his patent was granted in less than a year after filing the CIP application. He recently sold his company, and I'm sure that his industry-defining patent helped make this possible. Here's the big takeaway. A patent is more than a piece of paper with claims and legal jargon. It's a signal to investors, partners, and even acquirers that your company owns a piece of valuable intellectual property that aligns not only with tech or products, but also with scalable customers and revenue. In other words, properly configured patents can be business assets that, when used strategically, can drive real value creation for your startup. When you align your startup's patent strategy with your actual business needs, whether that's raising your next round, negotiating a strategic partnership, or preparing for an exit, patents can give you leverage you simply can't get from product demos or pitch decks alone. That's where secrecy plays an important role. By using non-publication, you keep control over when your innovation becomes visible. Maybe you want to stay in stealth mode until your product launches. Or maybe you want to reveal your patent portfolio as part of a fundraising milestone. Either way, you're timing the disclosure of the subject matter in your patent application to serve your business strategy, not the USPTO's calendar. For startups, that control can be golden. A smart patent strategy lets you showcase innovation when it benefits you most, while keeping competitors guessing until you're ready. It's about treating patents not as a legal checkbox, but as part of your startup's smart growth playbook. And remember, smart patent strategy equals stronger startup leverage. Here's the bottom line: patents by themselves don't automatically make your startup worth more. A stack of applications won't impress investors if they're not tied to your actual business strategy. To create real value, you have to treat patents as business assets, tools you actively use to strengthen your position in the market. That means thinking beyond the default route that your patent team uses for their large company clients and leveraging the full toolbox of patent strategy available. One of the most powerful but often overlooked tools is the non-publication option available in the USPTO. It gives you control over timing, lets you stay in stealth mode, and aligns disclosure with your growth milestones. When you approach patents this way, as business levers and not just legal filings, they can truly enhance your company's valuation and competitive edge. That's how startup founders can win with patents. I'm Jackie Hutter, and this has been Winning with Patents. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe and follow for more insights on how to turn patents into a competitive edge for your startup.